At its core, pure-blood supremacy is a belief system. It asserts that wizards and witches with exclusively magical ancestry are superior. They are deemed inherently more powerful, more worthy. This ideology claims that those with Muggle heritage are lesser. Muggle-borns are seen as impure. Half-bloods are often viewed with suspicion or disdain. It's a form of magical racism. It creates a rigid hierarchy based solely on birth. Your lineage dictates your worth. This wasn't just a fringe idea. It became deeply embedded in society. It influenced laws, customs, and social interactions. How does such a belief gain traction? The concept of pure blood wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a deliberate construction. Powerful families needed a way to maintain their status. They needed to justify their privilege. Blood purity became their tool. They created narratives of ancient, unbroken magical lines. They claimed these lines held unique power. This was often exaggerated or fabricated. Marriage within a small circle reinforced this myth. It created an illusion of exclusivity. It solidified their power base. Propaganda played a key role. Stories, histories, and social norms were shaped. They reinforced the idea that purity mattered. Generations were taught this doctrine. It became ingrained from childhood. Questioning it was seen as disloyal or foolish. Blood purity wasn't just a belief. It was a weapon. It was used to control who had power. It determined who had access to opportunities. High-ranking positions in the ministry were often reserved for purebloods. Access to certain schools or clubs was restricted. Social circles were exclusive. It created an us versus them mentality. Purebloods were encouraged to distrust outsiders. Muggle-borns were seen as threats. This division weakened the magical community. It fostered suspicion and fear. It made collective action difficult. The system was designed to perpetuate itself. Purebloods married purebloods. Wealth and power remained concentrated. It was a tool of social engineering. It shaped the very fabric of magical society. It dictated who belonged and who didn't. Pureblood supremacy created a clear social pyramid. At the very top were the sacred 28. These were families deemed truly pure. Families like the Malfoys, Blacks, and Lestranges were often at the apex. They held immense social and political influence. Their names carried weight. Below them were other pure-blood families. Some were less zealous, but still benefited from the system. They occupied comfortable positions. Then came the half-bloods. Their status was ambiguous. Some were accepted if they aligned with pure-blood values. Others were ostracized. At the bottom were the Muggle-borns. They were the primary targets of scorn and discrimination. They were seen as interlopers. This hierarchy extended beyond humans. Magical creatures were often relegated to even lower status. Goblins, house elves, and centaurs faced immense prejudice. This hateful ideology didn't just exist in drawing rooms. It was actively enforced. Organizations emerged to champion and police it. The most infamous were the Death Eaters. Led by Lord Voldemort, they were the militant arm of pure-blood supremacy. They believed in its absolute truth. Their methods were brutal. Intimidation, violence, torture, and murder were common tools. They sought to terrorize the non-pure-blood population. They targeted Muggle-borns specifically. The Muggle-born Registration Commission during Voldemort's rise was a chilling example. It stripped people of rights. They also punished purebloods who didn't conform. Those who associated with Muggles or non-purebloods were deemed blood traitors. The Weasleys are a prime example. The Death Eaters weren't just criminals. They were ideologues. They believed they were purifying the magical world. Their actions were driven by conviction. Imagine living in fear simply because of your birth. This was the reality for countless witches and wizards. Their lives were constantly under threat. Opportunities were denied. Jobs were harder to get. Social acceptance was conditional. They faced constant microaggressions and overt hostility. Muggle-born students at Hogwarts faced bullying. They were called slurs like mudblood. This wasn't just name-calling, it was dehumanizing. Their very right to exist in the magical world was questioned. They were made to feel like they didn't belong. Their magic was seen as somehow less legitimate. This oppression wasn't abstract. It impacted daily life. It limited potential and stifled dreams. It forced people to hide who they were. It created a climate of fear. People were afraid to speak out. They were afraid to associate with the wrong people. Silence became a form of survival. Beyond the systemic issues, there were deep personal struggles. Muggle-borns grappled with their identity. Where did they fit in? They had to navigate two worlds. Their Muggle heritage was often a source of shame or danger in the magical world. Their magical identity was unknown to their Muggle families. Half-bloods faced unique challenges. They were caught between worlds. They might be accepted by neither purebloods nor Muggle-borns. Characters like Harry Potter, a half-blood, faced this. His status was complex. He was both the chosen one and someone with Muggle ties, which some purebloods despised. Hermione Granger, a Muggle-born, is a powerful example. Despite her brilliance, she constantly faced prejudice. Her achievements were often downplayed by purebloods. These personal battles were fought daily. They involved internalizing societal messages. They involved finding self-worth in a world that questioned it. Discrimination leaves deep wounds. The psychological scars of pureblood supremacy were profound. They affected individuals and the community. Constant fear and anxiety were common. Never knowing when you might be targeted is exhausting. It erodes your sense of safety. Trust was broken. How could you trust a society that allowed such hatred? Relationships were strained by fear and suspicion. Even after the wars, the scars remained. Healing from such deep societal division takes time. It requires confronting the past honestly. Acts of defiance, big and small, occurred daily. Hiding Muggle-borns, sharing information, refusing to cooperate with the Ministry under Death Eater control. This resistance wasn't always glamorous. It was often quiet courage. It was choosing kindness and acceptance in the face of hatred. Amidst the darkness, resilience shone through. Those targeted by pureblood supremacy found strength within themselves and each other. Community was vital. Muggle-borns and their allies formed bonds. They supported each other through difficult times. They found strength in shared experience. Resilience wasn't about being unaffected. It was about enduring. It was about healing and moving forward despite the pain. It was about refusing to let hate win. Even after Voldemort's defeat, the legacy of pureblood supremacy didn't vanish overnight. Ideas deeply ingrained take time to fade. Prejudice can linger in subtle ways. Unconscious biases might remain. Some pureblood families might still hold outdated views. Understanding this lingering legacy is important. It reminds us that defeating a Dark Lord is one step. Building a truly just society is another.